Let's dial back in. Anybody new to the room that wasn't here in the first hour? Okay, anybody new? All right, good. I don't have to show them this slide again. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. If you haven't already, type in this web address, bit.ly/spj datascrape. bit.ly/spj datascrape. This is going to be our little data scraping exercise. This is an open free document. You can type on it, but I ask that you don't type on it till a little later in the session. We're going to do some data scraping. Any of you ever scraped data before? Learn how to do that in a class? Oh, good. You're going to get some new stuff here. Data scraping is kind of a necessity to extract information out of a document like a PDF or a web page table, like a little grid you might see on a web page, and take it and put it into a piece of software where you can do something with it. Most often a spreadsheet or maybe a Word or Google Doc. But I use it mostly to pull data and drop it into a spreadsheet. Okay, page coming up okay for you guys? I see a bunch of people showing up. Okay, coming up okay. And I give a lot of props here on this document to Lena Groger from ProPublica. She's a data visualist for ProPublica. Follow her on Twitter. That's why I put her Twitter handle in there. She is awesome. If you are ever at a journalism conference where she's speaking, go. It'll be the best 2 hours you've ever spent. Because not only does she build really cool data viz, she tells you how to do it. She shares that information. She blogs about it. She trains you on it. She puts it in plain English so we can all understand it. Okay, so follow Lena. She's the best. And a couple years ago, I was at a conference, and she was kind of just finishing up the session. And she goes, hey, I just learned about this formula that helps you scrape data out of a web page and put it into a spreadsheet, a Google Sheet. She goes, you guys want to play around with it? We're like, heck yeah. So she showed us this formula. Now, we've all probably used a spreadsheet before. Okay, we've typed in a formula, =sum or =average, to do a math calculation. This takes that premise and turns it outward. What we're going to do is fill out this little form and tell it to import HTML, hypertext markup language from the web, put in a web address to scrape it from, tell it what to scrape. We're going to tell it to scrape a table, and number of element on the page, where it appears on the page, which will almost always be 0, which means top of the page and scrape down. Okay? And steps 2, 3, and 4 here kind of show you how you can fill this form out, just for example purposes. And it lists this little web page, the Fdic failed bank list. What I want you to do is go down to step 5. We're just going to make the magic happen first. Highlight the code under step 5. And if you want to take this exercise yourself, you can take it and go to File, Download As. What's mine is yours. You can download it as a Word doc. But just copy the code under step 5. Best part of my day is watching you guys all copy it. It's hysterical. Just copy. Okay? And the page we're going to scrape is this one, the Fdic's failed bank list. This is all the failed banks in the US since the year 2000. Okay? And it's some very useful data in here. It's got the name of the failed bank, the city and state it's in, the acquiring institution, the bank that came along and acquired the assets of that bank or the debt of that bank and took it over. When that deal closed, and then typically a few months later, the deal's updated, so it gives the updated date. It also has a little certification number here as well. So there's 7 columns wide by 25 rows deep. Pretend for now that the download data button doesn't exist up there because it didn't 4 months ago. Okay? Not many government web pages have a download data button on them. Most of them don't want you to access the data. They want you to be able to see it in this ugly table, which is what we used to design web pages in back in the day. But what they don't want you to do is to take it and do something with it like sort it and filter it in a spreadsheet. They don't want you to do that. So they're required by law to make this public. This is public data, this is public information. Okay? So this government website puts it up there in a useless table. makes it hard for you to use it. Well, it's more than 25 rows deep. You could probably rekey this into a spreadsheet, you know, in an hour or so. But you realize by hitting this last button that this table isn't 25 rows deep, it's 551 rows deep. So it's pretty big data set. 555, I should say, sorry, 555. So man, you don't want to rekey this, you've got to scrape it. So you've got this page, you've got this big table and grid. All you do is grab the web address up here, the URL. URL stands for Uniform Resource Locator, web address, web page. That's all it means. And you plug it into this formula. You put in the other quote marks table, and then 0, telling it to start at the top of the page and scrape down. So if we've all got step 5 copied, we're now going to go to Google Drive and set up a Google Sheet. And we're going to scrape that data out of the FDIC's failed bank list directly into the Google Sheet. So just make sure you have this copied and go to drive.google.com. Make sure you're logged in with your Gmail address, drive.google.com. Click on New in the upper left-hand corner. And it gives you some choices here. Select Google Sheets. And the first thing you always want to do when you set up a Google Sheet is label it. So click up here where it says Untitled Spreadsheet. And then click into cell A1. Anytime you scrape, anytime you work with a data set, your data should always start in the upper left-hand corner, cell A1. And the first row across the top should always be the labels of the data, what appears under it. It shouldn't start with the numbers or the data itself. It should always be the labels. Because when you go to put that into a piece of data viz software, having those labels is very, very handy. Okay? So everybody got a Google Sheet up? Okay. Everybody got it labeled? If you're in cell A1, cut and paste the formula you copied in there. If you're living right, you just scraped 555 rows of a government database in about 3 seconds. That makes you certifiable badass. Government public information officers are not happy that you know how to do that. Okay? We're very lucky here in Lincoln. You've got a good data portal up here. Chicago is blessed with a very good data portal. There's a lot of really good data that's up there. Guy I went to high school with, Jeff McReynolds, was one of the team that built the data portal here in Lincoln. Did a great job with it. But many places you can't find this data very easily. You have to scrape it out, and that's why I show you this formula. There's some more tools I'm going to show you in a minute. Couple things about data scraping. Were you all able to get it? Did it show up for you? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. Put data scraping on your resume. Okay? Have a section on your resume that says skills and put data scraping on it. It is a very marketable tool. So get that on there. A couple things about data scraping. So a couple danger zones here. Do a slow scroll through your data just to make sure you captured it all and there's no garble. Sometimes, you know, the tables will get screwed up or something and you'll need to go in and fix some things or fill them in. And you don't want to do that once you start sorting and filtering and building your data. Scroll all the way to the end and check the last row. Should be Bank of Honolulu. Okay? I always go back to my web page I scraped then and double check the last page of the web page, and sure enough, it's Bank of Honolulu. So I captured all of the data. Okay? You always want to check that up front. So now that we've got this data set, if you scroll back up to the top, you can look at these labels. We're not going to do a spreadsheet exercise. We're going to go sort and filter this. If you ever do go to sort and filter it and the data disappears on you after a scrape, just file download as, and you can save it and open it up in Excel and then move it back into Sheets. It'll take out any of the code in the background that may mess up your sort and filter, because if the data does disappear on you, you've done nothing wrong. It just had a little hiccup in the scraping process. But you can get around that by saving it to your desktop. And some people like to work in Excel better. I use Excel more than I use Sheets myself. I shouldn't probably tell you that, but, but I do. And it's just a matter of preference. So now that we've got this data set, we've got bank name, city and state, acquiring institution, and closing date. If I were to do a story based off this data set and looking for trends, what stories could I tell by sorting and filtering this data set? I've got all of the failed banks since 2000. What's some data I could extract from this to do an interesting story? What's that? Yeah, how many in each state? Answer the where question. You know, was Nebraska among the top 10 nationally in failed banks over the last 19 years? Where did Nebraska rank? Where did Omaha or Lincoln rate? Okay? That's one way to do it. Answer the where question. Very good. What else? We've got a couple more ways we can filter. When they closed. Okay? And if you sort and filter this database, you're going to find that a lot of banks closed between 2007 and 2011. Why? Anybody? Recession. The housing market busted. The housing bubble went boom. So then we answer the when question. When did a lot of these banks fail? And then you can cross-reference that, see, did Nebraska have a lot of them that failed during 2007 and 2011? A few of them did. Okay, what else can we answer? There's one other big elephant in the room. Yeah, who acquiring institutions? Who came in and, there were some predatory banks. Some big banks came in and snatched up all these failing banks, many of them during 2007 to 2011. So you could see who was buying up all these banks. So always approach a data set, and this is a small data set. This is 555 rows by 7 columns. You might be working with a data set that's 20 rows wide by 100,000 rows deep, and that can be very intimidating, especially when you're first starting reporting. Approach a data set like you would approach an interview with somebody. Ask the data basic questions. Who, what, when, where, why you can't always ask, or you can't ask how and how much, especially if you're working with monetary values, okay? So you can add all that kind of, if you approach it that way, you can really come up with some good stories by using the labels across the top and asking, and sometimes I even will type them out, or I'll have students type them out on the side on a little Google Doc. What questions do you want answered from this data set? And that helps them kind of formulate their approach to their story that way. Okay? Let's do a little more scraping. Scroll down on the page. And I give you a bunch of this little area that says Pop-Tarts. Nice. So we put Pop-Tarts on there. God. Can't take you guys anywhere. Exercise. You know how many times I heard that as a kid? Exercise on your own. We've given you some data sets here. The National Interagency Fire Center, USA Today. USA Today's is a great one. It's the college football coaches' salary database. So you can see where Frosty ranks among all the coaches' salaries. National Interagency Fire Center has a lot of wildfire data. And then you get down in here, and here's your formulas. So really all you have to do to scrape it, and everybody's going after the coaching salary database. Love it. And I'll ask you a few questions about it too. All you have to do is cut and paste that web address where it says URL, being careful not to knock out a quote mark or a comma, and then capture that formula. Okay, so that's how you would do it. So I'm going to copy a bunch of these so you guys can go in and create your own formulas. Look at you go. Crazy. Look at this. Best part of my day. Then I'm going to have you scrape the coach's salary database. Or if you want to do the fire center, you can do that as well. I had a few others in there as well. Just to get a little more practice with it. This formula that you're working with right now is kind of the foundation of data scraping. It generates a lot of the other tools that I'm going to show you that make scraping even easier. But I just wanted to give this to you so you could have the foundation. It's a good kind of backup plan, so you make sure you have all of the data sets. you can scrape all the data sets. If one of the other tools fails, this is always kind of your good fallback plan. The formulas look good, the ones I'm seeing in here. You guys are doing a good job with them. Okay, who's the highest paid coach in college football? Nick Saban, yeah. Who's 2 on the list? Urban Meyer, not anymore. Might look at that far right column. You wonder why he kept his job this year and was only suspended for a little while. Look at what his buyout was. 38.1 million reasons they kept him around. They're terrible. And I told him that. I did a training there right around that time too, and I told him that. Okay, over the years this chart changes quite a bit. Saban's always in the top 2 or 3. But Jim Harbaugh 2 years ago was #1 by far, but he's dropped a little bit. Dabo Swinney was 9th the year he won the national championship, moved up to #2 on the list, and has now dropped back down to #7. He's probably due for another raise. It's fun to kind of watch this list over time. So when you scrape this, you've got some great data here. You got the school name, the coach's name, what he's paid. It doesn't have their shoe deal with it. I wish it did. It has what their assistants are paid and all this stuff, the buyout. But let's say we wanted to do a story on who got the best deal on their college football coach. We would have to add a column of data on the right-hand side. What is some data I could go out and do go out and research and find that I could add to this to show who got the best deal on their college football coach? What could I add to this? We've got a salary of the coach, but we want to be able to reflect whether or not that university made a good investment in that coach. Revenue, yeah. Did they make money off the coach? Wins, yeah. That's how coaches are evaluated, wins and losses. What gets them hired and fired. So I would probably do the average number of wins over the last 5 years. Okay. Now some of them, like Frost, has only been there a year. Okay. But average number of wins over the past 5 seasons might be a good way to reflect that. So we've got that data set we could add in. And I was doing a class, I taught a class one semester at Notre Dame, kind of on the side. A friend of mine was out having surgery. So I went down and did his data viz class down there and worked with the Domers. And I had this sophomore that talked his way into my senior level class, Juan Jose Rodriguez. Love kids like this. Talked his way into the class. I was very reluctant to let him in. He turned out to be the best student in the class. And we did this scraping exercise that you just did. He comes up during break and goes, I want to freelance this for Athlon Sports Magazine. And this was back when Harbaugh was #1 a couple years ago. And we did a scatter plot chart in Google Fusion tables with this. We'll use Google Flourish in a little bit. You'll see these types of charts. And he, over the weekend, went back to his dorm room, is typing away, and he's researching all the average number of wins per year and salary. So the salary's on the y-axis, the wins are over here. And you can see, Harbaugh by far was making the most coin, but didn't do that well with wins. And over here we had Saban. This is the year Dabo won the national title. So they got pretty good value of him. He was, I think, the 9th or 10th highest paid coach. As you scroll through here, you see some coaches that aren't coaching anymore. Just 2 years like Cliff Kingsbury, he's done. Some of these coaches paid pretty well and didn't win a lot. Vanderbilt's coach, some of those. So interesting little thing. And my point with this is you can scrape data and just pull data sets in and chart them, and that's fine. But what gets really cool is when you start to do your own research, add to that database, and come up with your own stories out of it. It took Juan Jose, better part of a Saturday and Sunday afternoon to put this together. He did the data viz the following Tuesday in class, sold the story by the end of the next week. They paid him a few $100s for a class assignment. So think about that, students, as you're doing this, working with this kind of stuff. Find a way to make a little money at it, man. Why not? Okay, let's go back to our exercise sheet. Good stuff. The formulas look great. I'm scrolling through here. Sometimes I'll see them where they blow out the coding. It's a very finicky formula. If you knock out a quote mark or a comma, it'll blow up the formula. Don't worry about it. Just go back and do it again. Just give it another shot. It can be frustrating sometimes, but boy, is it a great time saver when it works. Okay. Scroll down on the page to this area that says Google Chrome Scraper Extension. And there's a little link here to a GitHub page that allows you to download what's called a scraper extension. If you're in Google Chrome, Firefox has these too, you can install these little tools up here. I showed you InVids earlier. The scraper extension, I'm highlighting it right there. It's right up at the top right. It's just a little putty knife that sits there and chills out in your browser. It doesn't do anything. You don't click on it. But it kind of runs in the background and supercharges your browser to make it a scraping machine. So once you have that installed, I'll show you what it enables your browser to do. I'm going to go back to this USA Today database. And instead of using the formula that I just showed you, here's a shortcut. It uses your formula in the process. I can highlight any row in this table, anywhere. I can right-click on it, control-click if you're on a Mac, and it gives you a little pull-down menu. And it gives you this one called Scrape Similar. And it's going to tell it to scrape any other row in this table that is similar to that, and it will drop it into this interface. So it just extracted everything out of that table. And now I can do two things. I can click on Copy to Clipboard, or better yet, Export to Google Docs. And watch what happens. Not only does it extract the data, drop it into a spreadsheet, but it also labels the darn spreadsheet for you. And there you go. It's running that formula that I just taught you in the background. So I showed you the long way to do it. This is the short way to do it. Okay? There are some tables where it won't work. If you have a scroll bar built into the table, or it's got kind of a beveled edge to it, it's a table that's been built with div tags, which is a little tag that we use to design web pages. It's an embedded table, and the scraping won't work. But most government web pages that you find will just be a simple table like what we've been scraping. Okay? So scrape away. But this is a nice little tool that will help you speed up your scraping process a great deal. So install that little Chrome Scraper extension. There are many others out there as well. Scraper Wiki has a bunch of stuff. If you scroll down the page here, I list a whole bunch of tools for you. Tabula, Scraper Wiki, Comet Docs, all of those. Okay, so feel free to download and experiment with any of those. They're just there for your reference. The next, everybody good with scraping? Good? Yeah? Good skill to have. Get that on your resume. If you have a LinkedIn page, put that on there as a skill. All the newsrooms I go to, like I said earlier, I do a lot of Gannett trainings. They're always looking for people that can work with data. It's one of the most commonly sought positions right now. Can you rip a data set off of a city data portal, find a story in the numbers, and then map it or plot it or sort it and filter it and find a story in it? You know how to do that, you got job security. It helps. Okay? Tabula.technology. Go to that webpage, tabula.technology. It's tabula with a B. Tabula.technology. This is very popular among the investigative reporters and editors crowd. They do this at their training at their conferences each year. And Tabula is what I call the Make PDFs Great Again tool. It allows you to scrape data out of PDFs. And it does it on your desktop of your computer and not out on the live web where somebody can see what you're scraping. Okay, because that can be dangerous if you're doing an investigative reporting story. Okay? Tabula allows you a free download, and this is safe software. It's not going to blow up your computer. Download for Mac, download for Windows, depending on what your platform you're working on. okay? And it'll download your applications folder, and it'll give you this little icon right here, this little green icon. Mine sits out here right on the rail of my desktop. And when you open it, you get this real simple little interface, okay? It allows you to import a PDF to your interface off of your desktop or off of your hard drive. And I'll show you one of the PDFs. I'm just going to demo this for you. It's not a exercise. This is the Nevada Secretary of State's voter registration statistics. They send it to you as a PDF. Journalists in the room, if you do a public records request, ask for it in a certain format, like an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Doc or a Word doc or whatever. Don't ask, just ask for the document. They'll send it to you as a PDF, and then you have to scrape it. It's a pain in the butt. If you have Acrobat Pro, which is about $400, you can export it as an Excel spreadsheet. But if you don't have that, and a lot of newsrooms I've visited don't, you've got to scrape this. I've got to scrape this table out of here. So all I do is upload it into Tabula. It'll bring it in, and it'll be in PDF format. But what it does is it allows me to take it and highlight the areas I want to scrape. There it is. As I hover over it, it gives me little crosshairs. I can just paint right over and hold down on my mouse and paint right over what I want to select. Or let's say I've got a 90-page document with 60 tables and I don't want to paint all of them. Hit auto detect and it'll select all the tables for you. I hit preview up here in the upper right. It turns my PDF into an HTML table. And what do we know about HTML tables? They're scrapable. See this little button in the upper right or upper center here, export? When I hit that button, this software is running that formula that I showed you guys in the background. It's extracting the data out of the HTML page, dropping it into a spreadsheet, putting it into my hard drive or my downloads folder, and voila, there's my scraped data out of the PDF. Make PDFs great again tool, love it. Okay, that is a native PDF. That is a PDF that is been created out of a spreadsheet and saved as a PDF, and it also saves it right here into Tabula. But what if we get a scanned document? Oftentimes PDFs are scanned in off of a printer. And I'll show you one here. This is the Clinton Foundation's Form 990 from 2003. This is a gem. A lot of good cheese in here. You scroll through this document, you can scrape the tables out of here, the individual tables. There's also a table in here of their highest paid staff, all of their contractors and consultants and what they paid them. There's some really good info in here. But this is a document that's been scanned from paper. Well, if I go to load this into Tabula, let's see what happens. The awesome thing about Tabula is it comes with instructions. Love it. So it's sitting there, it's thinking about it, it's trying to read it. It stops me and goes, sorry dude, your PDF is image-based. There's no embedded text. Go to the help page. So I'll go to the help page. And it tells me here, if your PDF is image-based, you're going to have to run the PDF through another piece of software first to do what's OCR, optical character recognition. And they give you some downloads here, Lime OCR for Windows. Mine is for Mac is PDF Sandwich, which is kind of funny. I'll show you a PDF Sandwich as a web page. Looks like my first web page in 1995. Oh yeah, ugh. Yeah, that's how we design web pages, man. We didn't have CMSs. We hard-coded everything. I was one of the founding editors of ChicagoTribune.com. We worked off of Word documents, text documents, and saved them as .html files. But that's how the web looked back then. Ugh. Lime OCR works for Windows. And all you have to do is move the PDF into that software once you download it, save it, and then move it back into your data scraping software, in this case Tabula, and it'll be scrapable then. Just one extra step. But I always like to show Tabula. It's not a Google tool, but if you have to deal with PDFs a lot, it can be a huge time saver to you. You don't have to extract the data or rekey it or anything like that. Very, very helpful tool. Okay, let's do Google Flourish. Okay, this is a newer tool, and we've got a little exercise that you can walk through. I'm going to walk you through it. If you want to work along with me and build the graphic with me, that's great. If not, the steps are all right there, and you can do it on your own. But Flourish is a very powerful tool. It was built by a group called Kiln, and then Google purchased it. So this very first one up here, bit.ly/Google Flourish. Okay, you want to open that up. bit.ly/Google Flourish. And we give you two exercises. One is how to set up the account. Go to flourish.studio, and you can set up a free account. There's an option for a paid version. You don't need to use it. It's just if you want to be able to save graphics privately, which you won't. You'll want to publish yours. And then two exercises. One on building a little line chart on avocado imports. And the second one is a fun one. It's a sports one. And it's called a Horserace Chart. And it shows the NFC quarterback rankings, NFC North Division quarterback rankings each week and how they go up and down. Okay, and I'll demo both of them, but we'll actually build the avocado chart. So if you're logging in and setting up Flourish, how many of you have already set up a Flourish account? None of you? Flourish.studio? One of you? Yeah, go in and set it up now. Flourish.studio. And I will play a short video. It shows you how Flourish works.
Everyone loves a beautiful data graphic or interactive story, whether it's a map that squishes to make a complex subject simple, a chart that animates to explain a correlation changing over time, or an interactive so rich it can give us a new view of the world. But good data work is hugely time-consuming, out of reach for small newsrooms, and hard to justify even for the big ones. Until now. Flourish is a new platform that allows anyone to make world-class graphics, maps, and interactives quickly and easily. There's no software to install, just log in, click to create a new visualization, and choose a suitable template. You can use the ever-growing library of built-in templates, or if you do have in-house coders, adapt the templates or make your own from scratch, allowing you to create a suite of unique data tools that all your staff
That's a horse race graphic.
There's literally no limit to what a template can be. It could be anything from a simple line chart to a rich graphic such as this one for exploring a group of people and how that group changes over time. It could even be something in VR. Making a graphic from a template is easy. Give your project a name, and then quickly upload your own data, either by pasting it in from Excel or uploading a CSV file. Next, add your own text, such as a headline and stand first, and explore the settings available in this particular template to customize the design with a high level of detail, all without coding. Here we could change the skin on the globe, or the color of the arrows. You can also preview your project on different device sizes. Flourish is fully responsive and mobile friendly. When you're happy with your graphic, you can publish it with one click and grab an embed code. or download the project if you prefer to publish from your own server. But that's only the start. You can now use the unique Flourish story editor to guide an audience through your graphic or multiple graphics, assembling different views into a linear story to engage an audience. The result can be a step-by-step explainer or a graphic that updates when you scroll through a text story or press play on a voiceover. Suddenly, this kind of high-end data storytelling can take minutes rather than days or weeks. But Flourish isn't limited to data graphics. The BBC created a template for making interactive documentaries. It allows the editors there to explain a complex topic, offer up relevant content such as video, and to curate the audience feedback and response on social media. All of this in multiple languages. So that's Flourish. We think it has the potential to be hugely useful in all sizes of newsrooms, and we can't wait to see what you do with it.
So I wish that dude narrated all of our videos. He's got a great accent. It's awesome. Okay. So if you've set up your account, you've done kind of this first area here, getting started. That little training video that I just showed you is right here. It's under step number 2. And I'm going to just demo real quickly how easy it is to build a chart in this, and show you a bunch of examples of how newsrooms have used it, which I think is really cool. But the first thing we'd have you do is download this little data set. This was actually scraped by a reporter at the Arizona Daily, or at the Arizona Republic, during our training session. And she gave me the data set to train you guys on it. It's the imports of avocados into the U.S. Several countries, and California too provides a lot of our avocados. Southern California does. And the data set I have chilling out here on my desktop, so I'll kind of show you what it looks like first. And it's got a week, this is a few weeks here in 2018, and it's got some data on California, Mexico, Chile, nothing from the Dominican Republic, and just a little bit of data from Peru. Full data set here, but we're only going to concentrate on California, Mexico, and Chile when we bring it into our interface. Once you get an account on Google Flourish set up, you'll have a little button here. It's probably a black button that says Get Started or Create a New Graphic. Once you've created a few graphics, you will have a much bigger looking interface, like this. To create a new graphic, you just hit the New button up here, and it takes you into all these templates, and this has grown exponentially over just the last few months. Basic bar charts and line charts and pie charts. It has a great little intensity map templates as well. I'll show you one later that I've worked with on U.S. counties. If you have data on all the U.S. counties or just the counties in your state in a spreadsheet, congressional districts, you can plug them right in here. You just load the spreadsheet in. It'll recognize the name of the county and state, and away you go with your map. It's got scatter plot chart graphics similar to the coach's salary database that we just looked at. That little example, the Horserace charts are tucked in here. I'll show you a few of those. Parliament charts, if you want to see how people voted on something, Congress or something like that. Parliament charts are really good for that. All kinds of, even got photo sliders in here. Time-lapse maps, you can build those as well. Those are a lot of fun. But what we're going to do is we're going to do a simple line chart. If you click on line chart, it'll have some default data in there already, so it kind of gives you an idea of what the line chart looks like. And I'll label it up here. And all the action happens in two areas. This little data button here and over on the right. You might notice the video had an early version of this, had the toolbar over on the right. We moved it over on to the right. This is where you change all your styles and colors and add labels and things like that. All the action happens here. So I'll load the data in. There's the default data. Everything that's highlighted here shows up on the graphic here. Lines 1, 2, 3, and 4, column 1, 2, 3, 4. Easy enough. If you hit import your data, you can go out and bring in your avocados spreadsheet. Import. Then it'll ask you to select the valued columns, okay? And you want to select just B, C, and D. So I'll change this from BE to BD. And always highlight what's going to show up in the graphic. Now we've got a preview. So now our chart's starting to come together. We just imported that spreadsheet with the data, and then that data's plotted automatically. You can toggle between the two right here in the chart. Okay. Then you can start to add things like your header and your other materials. And the exercise walks you through that. It gives you the text that you take and put into the header, avocados U.S. import volume. It asks you for a subhead. Gives you the dates, October 14th through December 1st, 2018. And you'll see they'll start showing up on here as you add them in. You can change the color of your headline if you wanted to. Go with the dark green. It gives you a lot of controls. You know, you can center your headline and your legend here. You can change your font sizes. I do encourage people to increase font sizes, especially for people reading on phones, and for old people like me who have bifocals. Makes it a little easier for us to read the graphic if the fonts are a little bigger. And this just walks you through step by step. Instructors in the room, this is a great little assignment to drop on them as homework. Demo this to them, and then let them run with it. It's got a little annotations section too, where you can add in little notes. Okay, so now it adds, you know, that there's a big dip here, and that's because there was an avocado shortage, so that's a little note or an annotation. You can go down to the footer, and the footer is something that people often overlook. The footer tells people where your data came from, basically gives it all the credibility. You can put your byline in there, all that stuff. And again, it's often overlooked. And again, jack up that font size. So people can read it. And you always want to put in a link, the source URL. Where did you get this data from? It gives credibility because you're being transparent. And plus, you're helping the reader say, hey, if I want to pull this data set and do something with it, here it is. So I added the source URL right in there. And all this is under all the steps. You always want to put your credit on it. And I put that in a little notes field. So now you've got your headline, your graphic, your data, your annotation, your credit with all the source information. People can access the data set and pull it themselves right out of the spreadsheet. It's called Show Your Work. It's very popular among the data viz crowd. When you're done, of course, they said export and publish. Publish to share and embed. Gives you a link right up here, and embed code right here. And your finished product would look like this. This is how it appear if there was a link. People can share it right out of the chart. You can also embed it into your web page as well. It's responsive, so you know if you change your browser size, it'll shrink down and resize itself to fit any size window. It looks good on a phone. Plays pretty well on your phone as well. Okay. A couple other things you can do with Flourish. I'll show you the Horserace chart. This is the weekly NFC North quarterback ratings. I'm a big Bears fan, and I'll change this to scores rather than ranks. And these are the 4 quarterbacks: Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota. Kirk Cousins from Minnesota was actually the top-ranked quarterback for the year. That's his final stats. Aaron Rodgers, Mitch Trubisky was 3rd, and then Matt Stafford 4th. But this is really good for showing like second-day election results. You want to show, how somebody was faring with 25% of the vote in, 50%, 75%, or 100%. Or what I did here was took the quarterback rankings each week, their score, whatever they were rated as, and dropped it into a spreadsheet, pulled it off of NFL.com stats, put in a little link to a photo, and put their name in there. So it goes name, photo, and this is the template it gives you. And then each week's score for each quarterback. And bingo, you've got a horse race chart. And I could have done this as just a basic line chart, but I think animating it kind of shows the hysteria of the NFL season and how guys bounce up and down. When they're down at 0, that means that was their bye week. Okay, and I would actually put that in the annotations at the bottom. They're a little hard to read. Okay? So that is what's called a horse race chart. Other ways you can use it. Training down Pensacola, Florida a few weeks ago. And one of their prep sports writers there is covering soccer. And he was really into this. He's about 24, 25. And he actually took the quarterback or the goal leaders each week and entered their data. So you could see who wound up leading their conference in goals scored. This is kind of his year-end wrap-up story. You can see each kid and his score. Done a couple of trainings now in Toledo, Ohio. And this is an example of a story. They've, General Motors right up in Detroit also has a lot of factories in the Toledo area, a big employer for them. So they began pulling data sets on vehicle sales type, revenues. They also had some layoffs. You see they had a couple bad quarters there. And they did this as a story where they pieced together all the graphics together. Some of the plants are facing closure in their area. Put them together. Toledo Blades, very small newsroom, but they're doing some really cool stuff. So that's Google Flourish. I want to show you one more graphic that you can do with it. This is the county's data. It's median income by county. And this is all of the U.S. So as I hover over each county, it tells you the median income for that county. Otoe County is $50,881 is the median household income. Lancaster's $51,574. And all of this data is coming from this spreadsheet where it has the name of the county, comma, state. And then I've highlighted median income here, but there's other data too. It automatically creates an intensity chart based on, the darker color is the higher household incomes. As you can see, the Silicon Valley's high, New York City's very high, LA, Chicago's pretty high, and so on and so on. Median income, we also have population in here for some of them too, okay? And again, it's all plug and play. You don't have to know a lot of coding to do this. You used to need to have JavaScript among many other programs to be able to do this. But you can plug these data sets in pretty quickly into Flourish and have an interactive graphic like that. Okay, take a weekend and do nothing but play around with these 2 exercises, and you'll have Flourish mastered pretty quickly. So I did it 2 ways, step by step here. And the second one, I just kind of have you repeat the steps and download the data set and build the horse race chart for football. So you could have a lot of fun with Husker stats on this. Football, basketball too. I know they're struggling a lot lately, but you could do some really cool graphics with those. I was going to say too, any election data, approval ratings, you can watch a Horserace Chart of the approval ratings of a politician go right down. It's kind of fun to watch. You can do some really, really fun stuff with those. Go to mymaps.google.com, excuse me, mymaps.google.com. This is Google MyMaps. It's Google's basic mapping software. It's the third one down from the top on this screen, mymaps.google.com. Any of you guys ever use this tool, MyMaps? Yeah, you can build simple dot plot maps with it. It's a fun little tool. I want you to open this data set, bit.ly/MR cycling data. This little bit.ly link right here. And when you open it, it'll have a little arrow pointing down in the upper right. Just click on it, and it'll download to your downloads folder. Okay? So this is an unofficial ranking database of great cities to go cycling in. So a bunch of Google developers put together this little spreadsheet of, here are 20 cities we think it's cool to go cycling in. It's a fun little data set. It gets you looking at places around the world. And we're going to take it and we're going to map it. You could do this in Google Flourish, but we're going to use MyMaps. It's a little different experience. bit.ly/MR cycling data. And make sure you have mymaps.google.com open. As long as you're logged into your Gmail address, you'll be good to go with Google My Maps. It'll automatically save anything you put on the map. We good on the data? Were you guys able to get it open and download it? Just hit the little arrow in the upper right. It'll fall right in your downloads folder. And let me know if you need me to go back and put those URLs up there again. Just shout out. When you create an interactive map, you've got to do something a little different than what you do if you're creating a map for a magazine or a newspaper, okay? You've got to reward the reader for clicking on part of the map, okay? So this shows an area of flooding and some fires in Argentina. It also shows some areas that you can go to that are safe zones, areas where you can and cannot drive. So anytime you click on one of these areas, the data that pops up over here needs to be rewarding in a way that it's not just one statistic. You're giving them in reaching the reader on multiple levels. Some data, a link to a story. You can also add photos and videos to your maps, which are really fun. We're going to do that in just a minute, okay? So you can make your map interactive, okay? But you have to reward the reader when they click on something. You can draw shapes on your map. You can freehand draw shapes on your map, or we can load in what's called a shape file. A shape file would be like a shape of all the counties in Nebraska if we wanted to show how they voted and things like that. And I'll show you those in a minute. You can also take, your cursor and draw, and this is an example from the CBC when there was some flooding and mudslides in Washington State. They freehanded, because they didn't have all the data yet, they freehanded where the mudslides and flooding were the worst. We have these a lot with the wildfires too that hit northern and southern California over the summer and into the fall. We had to freehand a lot of these and then expand them as the burn area increased. And I'll show you how to do those. This one's a fun little map. This is all the pubs in Chicago that were showing the World Cup. The Huffington Post did this one, and they used little country flags to represent which bar was affiliated with which country. So I'm going to show you a 90-second video. It shows you the basics of Google My Maps. They're going to use the same data set that you have right now that you downloaded, and then we're going to do it as a group. We're going to move our data set into Google My Maps, build the map, and then add some really cool stuff to it that the video doesn't show you. So 90 seconds, it'll walk you through the basics, and then we're going to build the map.
Maps are an engaging way to share data and additional context with your audience. But if you're often on a deadline and new to maps, it can seem a little daunting. But it's actually pretty easy. There's no programming required. You can get started at google.com/mymaps. Or go to Google Drive, click the New button, and find the MyMaps app in the menu under More. This takes you to the MyMaps editor. Let's say you're writing an article on the world's 20 best cycling cities, and you have data from a spreadsheet that you want to visualize in a map. Go to the MyMaps editor window and hit Import. Then select the spreadsheet. It's going to ask you to select the column with your location info to position your place marks. Then you have to choose a column that will title your place marks, which will be under the bold text at the top of the info window when you click a place mark. Let's choose an icon to replace the red pins. Go back to the MyMaps editor and under All Items, click More Icons. Here you can choose from an existing library or add your own. This one's perfect. Let's also choose a base map style. In the editor window, you can choose from 9 different styles. Finally, to embed this map, click the share link, don't forget to title it, and make your map public. Then select Embed on my site. You'll get a window with the HTML code, which you can then paste into your source code. In the code, you can dial in the right height and width for your site. Start mapping today at google.com/mymaps.
Okay, so that's the basics of pulling a spreadsheet into Google My Maps and starting to build it out. And we're actually going to do that now, but add some really, really cool stuff to it. So go to your mymaps.google.com. And if you've created a map before, it'll look like this. It'll have your old maps stored in here. Hit Create New Map. If you're on a different browser, it may have a plus sign down on the lower right-hand corner. If you're on Firefox or Safari, sometimes it'll do that. But hit Create New Map. And to import something, you'll hit the blue Import button. But one step I want to show you that the video didn't. See where it says Untitled Layer here? You can layer things on top of your map, like the shapes and things like that. You always want to label your layers because you may come back and edit this map in a few weeks. And if you don't know what's on what layer and you don't have them labeled, you'll have a mess on your hands. So see where it says Untitled Layer? See the little 3 dots next to it? Click on the 3 dots and go to Rename this layer. And then title it, I'll name mine Cities, since this is the spreadsheet of all the cities. Okay. Now hit Import and go find your spreadsheet. Should be selected MyMaps Cycling Cities, I think it is. MyMaps Bike Cities. And hit Open. And it'll ask you to choose a column to position your place marks. You want to choose location. Okay? It's going to give it a city and country name. It'll recognize city and country, city and state. It'll recognize building names. It'll recognize longitude, latitude. It'll recognize postal codes. It'll recognize street addresses if you put all in one column, 946 West Sheridan Road, Chicago, Illinois, 60613. Stop by anytime. It will recognize that. Choose a column to title your markers. I'll hit city. You could do location too, but I'll hit city. And it's very important that your spreadsheet be accurate. Okay? If you have a misspelled street name on your address, it'll show up as an error on here. It also struggles sometimes with state abbreviations. IN for Indiana, it'll put it in India. You type in Washington, it'll think it's Washington, D.C., not Washington State. So you have to do State of Washington or spell out Indiana. These are little tricks that I've run into over the years of working with data sets, of going in and having to replace some of this stuff. Okay? So once you hit that continue button, you should wind up with something that looks somewhat like this. Google My Maps always centers the map over the area with the highest concentration of pinpoints. Okay, in this case, it's Europe. To zoom in and zoom out on your map, just go to the lower right-hand corner. You can zoom in. Okay, and the video kind of glossed over this, but click on the little base map button on the left-hand side there. They just said, oh, this one's perfect, and they chose terrain map. Anybody give me an idea as to why that might be a good choice for this map? Yeah, you're biking. You want to know if you're climbing a hill or going downhill. Always think about your audience and how they're using the map when you choose your map background. I judge a lot of journalism competitions, and more often than not, I find maps that have a shapefile of all of the counties in Nebraska and how they voted, or all the counties in Ohio and how they voted, and they're laid against a satellite map where you can't see the outlines of the shapes. They just chose the wrong background. If they would have just clicked on light political map, it would have looked perfect. So give this, I know people just kind of, oh, well, this one looks cool, but really kind of think about, how is my reader going to use this map? What looks good? What makes it readable and easier to look at? What makes it more digestible for the reader? Okay? And very good. They're cycling, they care about whether or not they're climbing hills. Okay? Click on Dublin, Ireland, fine Irish town. And when you click on any of the cities, you'll get the data from the spreadsheet. Pops up. Here's your title that you'd selected, location, the ranking. They ranked them 1 through 20, and then notes, a little bit of data about that location. To edit this, you can click the pencil button, the edit, and you notice the word program has the British spelling. It drives me nuts. You can delete that out, hit the save button, and it'll edit it right in the map for you. It doesn't go back and change it on the spreadsheet. You would have to go back to your original spreadsheet and make the same change there if there's an error. But this allows you to do some editing on the fly. Okay. Click on the camera right next to the pencil button. This is where the magic happens. Okay. You can search for images, or if you go into the More menu, you can do YouTube search. Search for a YouTube video, cycling in Dublin, Ireland. It can be your video, it can be someone else's video. When people publish video in YouTube, the minute they hit that publish button, it makes it public. And people can take and embed it and use that video anywhere. I mean, you essentially sign away the rights to it. And I'll select this one. And now my pinpoint has a video in it. Okay? You want to keep people on your web page for a while and drive up time spent on site? This is a good way to do it. Give them an interactive map with something to do. Click around, play videos, look at data. Next thing you know, your 90-second time spent on the story goes up to 3 or 4 minutes. New York Times did a study on this in 2017. It's fascinating. And they write long stories anyway, so they get long reads. But when they started putting multimedia, little things like quizzes and polls and maps into their stories, their time spent on story just went through the roof. You can add more than one video or photo. There's a little plus sign down here, right by the garbage can. I'll trash it. But if you hit the little plus sign down there, you can add another video, or you can go in and add another photo. Now be careful with Google image search. You may not have rights to use the photos. So you're going to need to double check that in Google image search before you ever use that photo. Or you can upload your own. There's image URL if you've got them stored somewhere on like Dropbox or something like that. So now I've got a little slideshow of videos. Pretty cool. Zoom in on France. Now we're going to show you how to do some layering and do some shapes. Let's say we had a flood here, and we want to make sure our cyclists don't go riding through a flooded area in France. And I don't have like a shapefile I can drop in to show the flooded area, but I've been given some information by France's version of FEMA of, here's the rough area of where this flooding has taken place. And I can draw it on the screen. To do that, I go to this little button up here called Draw a Line. It's right up at the top here. It's got 3 little dots. Click on Draw a Line, and you can do add a line or shape, add a driving, biking, or walking route, very similar to what you have in Google Maps on your phone, which we'll do in a minute. We'll add a biking route. So we'll add a line or shape. Click on that top button. And now I can click and put little keyframes onto my page and create a shape of my flood zone or burn zone or mudslide or whatever. And I'll save it. Now I've got a little shape, and I can always stretch this out as the flood zone changes. I can grab these little keyframes and adjust the shapes. There you go. I can add another layer too by clicking Add Layer up here. It'll give me an untitled layer. I'll rename it. I'll call it Biking Route. And let's say I want to show what is the fastest biking route between Paris and Bordeaux. Boy, that'd be a nice ride. Right through the heart of wine country. I go up to Draw a Line again. I select Biking Route. Click up by Paris, or I could get it down to the exact street corner I want to go to. And notice how it already titled the layer and added it in. There we go. That's turn by turn. If I zoomed in on this, it would give me turn-by-turn directions between the 2 points I clicked on. And that's the same technology that is on your phone. It can guide you where you're going. Okay. A couple of things about maps that you should always do. Click on Untitled Map in the upper left-hand corner. 20 great cycling cities. Always title your maps. Always do a 2-sentence description, kind of telling where the data came from, what the map is, and always put your credit on it. And the reason to do this, there's a couple of really important reasons. The main one is people find your map 2 different ways, same way they find YouTube video. They find your YouTube video by searching in YouTube or in Google, or they find your YouTube video embedded on your web page. Same way with a map. They can find just the map, or they can find the map embedded into your web page where there's context. Well, let's say they just come to this page, and there's no description, there's no headline, no credit. They don't know what the map is. They're gone. Nobody's going to care. Okay, but as long as that description's there, people can find it. In fact, a lot of reporters now are starting to put links to their stories in here so they drive traffic back to their website. I think that's a real smart thing to do. I'll show you a website that does that in just a minute. Okay. Share button is right here in the middle. It's set to private, so only you can see it up until you're ready to publish. If you want to invite other people to edit the map before it goes public, you can invite them here, just like you would a Google Doc or a Google Sheet. But I'm going to make this one public. I am going to take it down right away because there's not a flood zone in Europe. And then to embed it, I would just go here and grab my embed code. And what you want to do, the video mentioned, you can dial in the right width and height. You always want to change the width to 100%, 100 and percentage sign. That'll make your map responsive. It'll make it squishy, and it'll resize it to fit on your vertical phone browser. Sometimes you may call up a map like this on your phone, and it runs off the side of the phone. That's because they didn't change it to 100% and make it responsive. Just a little embedding tip. And that is Google My Maps. I'm going to go in and kill it out now. Say goodbye. We also get things called shapefiles. And you can get these from the state, city, county data portals. This is a shapefile of all of the neighborhoods in Chicago. Good old city of Chicago gives me this shapefile. It's a KML file, keyhole markup language file. And it's all of the neighborhoods in Chicago. Good. Nice of them to give it to me in Pepto-Bismol pink, which I have to go through and adjust the paint bucket and clean it up. Okay. But it's valuable because now I have a layer in here showing that this is neighborhood is Lakeview neighborhood. It's the neighborhood I live in, North Lakeview, right up here. Okay. If I've got a neighborhood map showing all the neighborhoods in Chicago, think about Lincoln too. There's a lot of neighborhoods here. What could I map? What's some data I could map over the top of this? If I've got a space that shows all of the neighborhoods in Chicago. What's something I could plot points on top of this to help tell a story? What kind of data could I show here? Oh yeah, Chicago's homicide rate. 2 years ago it was at 679. Yeah, I'll show you one from a few years ago that we did. This was in fusion tables, which is starting to go away. What else? Other things that we could plot, but that's a big one, homicides. And that's a public safety thing. People want to see that.
Housing costs.
What's that?
Housing costs.
Yeah, housing costs. Great one. Where are the most expensive houses in the city? Where are the more affordable houses in the city? This is going down. Google's shutting down this tool. But this shapefile here is all the aldermanic wards in Chicago. And all these little pinpoints are homicides. We did this in 2012. And you click on each one of these. 515 wasn't a bad year for Chicago. I mean, it's really bad. In the early 90s, it was up around 1,000 a year. Terrible. But some interesting data in here. Somebody was stabbed on a sidewalk. Gives his gender, age. Happened on the near west side. Near west side, there's a lot of heroin trafficking there. There's a lot of guns and gangs down in here. This is over not far from the United Center where the Bulls and the Blackhawks play. Happened at 8:05 p.m. on the 11th of March. There's some really disturbing stuff that you'll find in here, but you'll see these patterns here, and you'll see these concentrations. And as you click on the map, it gives, this is Willie Cochran, Alderman Willie Cochran, gives his ward phone number and his office city hall number, and also the address of his office on here. We should have put his email on here too. But this is how you hold government accountable, is you build things that tell stories like this and hold them accountable for what they've done. It's poor policing. That's why they fired the police chief in Chicago. Cost him his job. Okay? A couple summers ago, I did a training out in Washington, D.C. for small weekly independent newspapers. And one of the newspapers that was there was the Santa Barbara Independent. And they had 6 people in this training. They loved the maps training. And the first thing they did was, after the training was over, was go back to Santa Barbara. And the first map they built was wineries. Here's all the great wineries in the Central Coast. It's great wine country. And they started doing other things. They're mapping all the vacant buildings in downtown Santa Barbara, and just kind of building these what we call day turn maps that you just kind of turn out, not on deadline, but they got comfortable with using Google MyMaps. December of that year, just a few months later, they had what was called the Thomas Fire. It's the worst wildfire in California history, although I think the Northern California ones approached that now. And that wildfire came up over the mountains here, came over the ridge and burned a large part of this area up here. Okay? I was supposed to be there for training that day. They told me not to come because they were evacuating the zoo, is how bad it got. The Santa Barbara Zoo is right over in here. There's Santa Barbara Zoo. They had to evacuate the zoo. The fires were coming over the foothills here. About a month and a half after the wildfires, they got terrible torrential downpours. And what happens in California, I used to work for the LA Times. I lived in LA for 7 years. And what happens is you have the wildfire and then you have downpour. And there's no brush on the side of the mountain to hold anything in place, and you get mudslides. You probably heard about this. It did damage to Oprah's home, Jeff Bridges' home was destroyed. And by the way, a bunch of people also died in this mudslide. This area up here in brown is a shapefile, like I just showed you. This is the mandatory evacuation zone that came from California and FEMA. If you lived in this area, you had better get, or you were in this area, you had better get out, or there was a good chance you were going to die. Some people couldn't make it out. This guy's 87, this guy's 89, 84. They're also doing profiles on some of the victims too. This guy was 54. They did a little profile on him and a little link to the story about him. They linked off to the story. But you get down here and you see other people that died in the mudslides. They're outside the evacuation zone. What does this story tell you? And who does it hold accountable? Who made a big mistake? Got people. Go ahead. What's that? FEMA, yeah. Yeah, the evacuation zone wasn't big enough. They should have had the evacuation zone extended probably down to Coast Highway. Coast Highway runs right here, the 101 freeway, this little yellow line. And I went back there it was late March of that year. And still, months later, I was driving through here and they were still doing work on the roads where the mud had covered parts of the road. You know? So this evacuation zone should have been extended way further south. And perhaps some of these people could have lived. Okay? So when I show you these tools, you know, a lot of times, you know, people dismiss these tools as toys. They're not toys. You can tell some pretty serious stories with this. You can save somebody's life by giving them accurate data on a map. Okay? It can make a world of difference. There's a whole area on Google's website called Google Crisis Maps. Google it, you'll find it. And all it is wildfires, flooding areas all over the world. Okay? And they constantly are building these and crowdsourcing these maps. Okay? And FEMA was very upset about this map, and they called the Independent. They were yelling at Brandon Ugary, who was the editor at the time. And, you know, it was just crazy. But they did a really nice job with this map. It's a St. Louis's homicides map, not quite as bad as Chicago's. I'm showing you 2017. I should go to 2018. All the blue ones are police shootings, police-related shootings. And what's really interesting about their map is they do the little police blotter information, the basic information, you know, that you'd find, and then they link off to the full story. So it drives traffic. It's a visual archive of homicides in the city, and it's helpful for the reporters in the office. It's also very helpful for the readers. If you're buying a house somewhere in St. Louis, you want to know if there's a lot of homicides in your neighborhood. And you can zoom in here and take a look. Real effective map. Did training in Nashville, Tennessee. Good barbecue, good music, great newspaper there. And one of the things we plotted when I was there were potholes. Big issue in Chicago too, and I know it's always a pothole problem here, having lived here for so long. And so they did this big blowout story, if it'll load here, on potholes. And they mapped all of them and the pothole repairs, because it tends to be very political whose roads get fixed first. These are all the potholes in Nashville. They're actually doing pretty good. The blue is the area where they still need to be fixed. And the green is the area where they've repaired them, and you can click on them and it'll give you data. Your city's data portal has this information. Lincoln has a data portal that every time somebody calls 311 or calls the city and says, hey, there's a big pothole on my street, come fix it, it goes into a database. Every red light, light that's broken, every traffic signal light that's broken has to be repaired, and that's all documented. Your tax dollars pay for that, and it's all public record. And you can plot this and see where things are getting repaired first. We do this often in Chicago because we see which aldermanic area gets repaired first, which aldermen have clout. We also do a little time-lapse maps sometimes of pothole repairs. We see that Ravenswood neighborhood on the north side gets fixed first every year. Who lives in Ravenswood? Mayor Rahm Emanuel. Okay? So you see the political impact that it has on who gets repaired first. You know, what parts of the city are getting fixed first and why. They did a real nice job on this. They had some great video. They went along with the crew and shot. It was a nice little multimedia piece. But the map was kind of the star of the show with this. Really showed visually what the problem was and what they needed to change with it. Fall leaves are a big deal in Bloomington, Indiana. It's a big revenue driver for them. So they did this map and they show it bring it back every year. Where are the best places to go and look at all the changing leaves? And it's just a simple little map. They did a little leaf icon. You can select whatever icon you want to put in the map, like the video showed you. Very simple. Okay. So that's mapping. Let's take 10 minutes and come back. Give yourselves a pat on the back, too. We put you through a lot in this session. We scrape data, Google Flourish, mapping. Yeah, that's a lot. 10 minutes, we'll reconvene, and it's all downhill from here. We'll do some stuff with Google Earth. You'll love it. But good stuff.